of Sea Isle. Phillies back in action today. Another Phillies game going on tonight on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 7:30. First pitch at 8:07. Also, this hour, we will get into the latest Eagles news. Eagles made a couple moves today of significance. What they mean, we'll get to that this hour. Plus, also, we will have another keyword for you to join in on the Eagles 49ers ticket giveaway. Again, you must be present on Friday, October 27th at Yuri's in Wildwood, where Mike Gill and the Sports Bash will be broadcasting live from 2 to 6 p.m. The keyword this hour is going to be Hurts. That's the key word when we tell you to text in at 609-403-0973. About 15 minutes from now is when you can jump in with the keyword to qualify for the contest, and we will contact you later tonight and tomorrow to follow up with you about your information. But first, before we get to anything else, I did want to hit on the Eagles news that happened earlier today, and then we'll get to the Phillies, because the thing with the Phillies is, and I think it's very interesting because Mike Gill brought this up earlier on the Sports Bash, the idea that there's so much with this Phillies team and it's so captivated our area that almost like the Eagles get forgotten about. And then when the Eagles make the moves they did today, it's kind of like oh, wait a minute, Howie Roseman still runs this team. Not one or either one is not highly significant, but I think it's a telling sign, though, for each one of them. The first move that happened of interest was Julio Jones being signed. Now, Julio Jones is a big name, but he's not the player that he used to be. The last 2 years, he's kind of just become this guy bouncing around from team to team after his time in Atlanta. And whether you want to point to the injuries or just age, the reality is that Julio Jones is a guy who's not going to come in here and be your number one or number two or number three receiver. What he is going to be is someone who is another option in the depth chart while Quez Watkins is out for 4 weeks. Remember, Quez Watkins was put on the injured list. So if Quez Watkins is on the injured list, it sounds like to me the Eagles are not hyper committed to the idea of Alameda Zaccheaus or any of the other guys stepping up in Quez Watkins' absence. Now, on the surface, they may seem ridiculous because, if we're being honest, Zaccheaus caught a touchdown earlier this year. He's looked good at times. But for whatever reason, the team is not getting enough production out of guys not named Smith, Brown, and Goddard. And a little bit from Swift and Gainwell, but not enough outside of the main guys, Brown, Smith, and Goddard. So what does that mean for this Eagles team? Well, I personally think part of the problem is the coaching and the play calling more than the players. I don't think this is as much of a player problem as much as it is a coaching problem. So for me, I look at it as you're bringing in Jones as maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. The more important news today to me was Josiah Scott being brought back, because that's a clear sign to me that this team is finally ready to admit that they have some secondary issues. And I know they've been cross-training Mekhi Gardner at safety as well. But it's beyond the time for this team to admit that this whole safety situation is not going as planned. Look, you went into the season with 4 guys who you thought could potentially be starters at some point or another. Terrell Edmunds, Justin Evans, Sidney Brown, who you drafted, and Reed Blankenship, who burst onto the scene last year. Well, now with 2 of those guys injured, am I supposed to just sit here and assume that all of those guys are going to be healthy for entire season? Well, it's impossible. And we didn't even see Tristan McCollum get used as safety anytime recently. So they had to make a move. And by the way, I'm seeing from Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports that Mario Goodrich has been waived. So if that's the case, the Eagles are not just bringing back Josiah Scott for the safety depth, but they're basically overhauling a cornerback situation. Because remember, Bradley Roby is banged up right now as well. So you would assume you'd want to keep Mario Goodrich. But apparently, I guess Roby's not doing as bad as some people may have speculated if they're releasing Mario Goodrich. So you're bringing in Josiah Scott to help with the depth at corner and defensive back on this team. And it's not that Josiah Scott himself is some great safety pickup, but you got to have bodies out there who actually know what to do if they have to be thrown into a situation. And I think that the Eagles, they got to make some real tough conversations and decisions about what are you doing at defensive back. You are going into a game with the Miami Dolphins. And for as much as we talk about how explosive the Dolphins offense is, this is not the first or the last lineup that you're going to be dealing with here. Look, I think the Eagles need to do more than what they've done. But for whatever reason, they have decided that as the team as is good enough. Now, we're going to find out very quickly on Sunday if it is good enough. Do I think it's good enough? Absolutely not. But for whatever reason, they think it is. So we're going to find out very quickly what the Eagles can and can't do, because this week you got the Dolphins and next week you got Washington and the Cowboys. And it's not that Washington or Dallas are on the same level as Miami, but it's the fact that guys got to match up. And we have already seen that this team has struggled in certain games with certain matchups. Miami's a speed matchup. Washington is a quick screen, a team that's going to have a lot of slants, a lot of guys moving around. And then Dallas, for as much as, Eagle fans hate the Cowboys, the reality is the Cowboys have a lot of talent. That Cowboys game would have been much bigger if Michael Gallup and Tony Pollard could have caught a couple passes last night. I know a lot of us were focused on the Phillies game, as we should be last night. But the truth is that Dallas should have won that game running away if Gallup and Pollard weren't so mediocre at their jobs. So keep an eye on the Eagles as we are moving forward with them. All right, 609-403-0973 is the text board. Appreciate everybody joining into the show today. We'll get to a little more Eagles talk a little bit later in the hour, but first let's get back to the Phillies. Incredible win last night. But I do have a small question coming out of that game. How much was it a good thing that the Phillies did not win the game running away? Because as I've listened to all the commentary throughout the day with Mike Gill on the Sports Bash, there is a question I have, which is there a value in winning a close game on Monday that the team knows that the Diamondbacks are not going to just go quietly into the night? They're not just going to run away. I think that there is a realistic value in the fact that you won a close game last night. I think it's a strong benefit that you have a Phillies team that didn't run away with the game, because I remember what happened in the Astros series last year. You had that one monster game at home, and the Phillies were never the same. Last night, you had to win a close game. You had to fight and scratch to finish that game off. I think it's a huge benefit for the Phillies. I think it is a huge value going into this game because Merrill Kelly is a similar pitcher to Zach Gallen. They're both right-handers who, they're not elite pitchers, but they can pitch at a high level. And you got to walk in there with a specific game plan and execute against them. And I think the Phillies have the talent, the ability, and the moxie to win the game tonight. And I think there's value in the idea that you didn't just score 12, 14 runs yesterday, that you won a real baseball game. You didn't win a game 12-4 or 8-2 or some crazy number like that. I like the fact that the Phillies are showing you that they can win close games. In fact, they've really only had 2 games that were not close this entire postseason that they've won. The one game against the Braves, one game against the Marlins. Every other game has been about 3 runs or less. And like I said, I think it's a very valuable thing. I think there's a lot of value to be had in a game like last night. And by the way, Zach Wheeler is pitching phenomenal in this postseason. And even though the numbers show that he's only good for about 5 innings every postseason start, that's 5 innings you're not getting from fill-in-the-blank pitcher on another team. Look, no offense to Gallen or Kelly, but they're not Zach Wheeler. And no offense to Nathan Eovaldi and Jordan Montgomery. They're not Zach Wheeler. There was a time that Justin Wheeler was better than Zach Wheeler. Not anymore. Sorry, Justin Verlander was better than Zach Wheeler, but not anymore. So I think that you got to be excited knowing that going into the game tonight, Aaron Nola is not just pitching to win the series. Aaron Nola is potentially pitching for his Phillies future. 609-403-0973. Jeff in Ocean City chimes says, Josh, you think the Phillies will overcome their game 2 issues tonight and head to the desert up 2-0? I think it's very possible. I think that the Diamondbacks, they are a team that has benefited by winning certain matchups. And I think that because they've won those matchups and they've done well against certain styles of teams, that I think that has been a big part of their success. I don't think the Diamondbacks are a team that's going to be overwhelmed by the moment, but I do think they are a team that when you think about the Diamondbacks, they are not elite at any one thing. They are not a team that is going to go out there and dominate you in any particular aspect of the game. So for me, I look at this team in the Diamondbacks and I see a team that can beat you and you can beat them. Their greatest weapon is that they're pretty much fearless. They don't see a David versus Goliath matchup in any scenario. They think they're just as good as you. That's their greatest strength, but it's also the greatest weakness because they don't have the experience to have the awareness to say what they are good or not good at. They just think they're good at everything. They can do anything. They can beat anybody. They think their bullpen, their starting staff, their hitters are as good as anybody. It's on the Phillies to go out there and show them, not so fast, my friends, as Lee Corso would say. We'll get more text a little bit later in the hour. 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank CL. Coming up next, we'll talk more baseball with the Phillies game today with Tyler Kepner, senior baseball writer for The Athletic, here on Game Night with me, Josh Hennig, on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle.
Tomorrow on ESPN Radio. After storming into Houston and winning games 1 and 2, the Rangers return home looking to take a commanding 3-0 lead. Can the Astros bounce back in a critical Game 3 on the road?
This one, a home run.
Game 3 of the Rangers and Astros in the American League Championship Series. Coverage begins tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern, with first pitch at 8 Eastern.
Listen to the MLB playoffs exclusively on 97.3 ESPN FM.
With GMF financing to qualify buyers excludes Corvette, excludes prior sales.
Everybody knows there's no beating Bennett. And right now we're kicking off our end of year sell down early with our best deals of the year. While most dealers are selling new vehicles at or above MSRP, Bennett's selling new Chevys at GM supplier employee prices. Yes, you pay what our supplier employees pay, not 1 penny more. Save even more with available 0% financing. And during our year-end sale, get our best offers ever on pre-owned vehicles. We'll pay a minimum $10,000 for any trade. Any trade. We don't care if it's got 1 million miles or 1 million dents. You still get a minimum $10,000 towards any pre-owned in stock. Imagine how much more you'll get if it's in good shape. And our non-commissioned sales staff is a delight to work with because they're paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. No need to negotiate, no hassles, no haggling. Find new roads at Bennett Chevrolet in Egg Harbor Township and BennettChevy.com.
There's a whole lot of savings going on now at Staples. During Staples Sit-a-thon, you can save up to $150 on select office and desk chairs. And when you buy a chair, you save 25% on desks, storage solutions, and office accessories. Plus, your local Staples now accepts Amazon returns. And when you return an Amazon order at Staples, you receive a coupon for $10 off your next $30 Staples purchase. Now is definitely the time to save at Staples. Chair offer ends 10/28, in-store only. Exclusions apply on Amazon offer.
Calling all Dynamites. Get ready to relive the hilariously awkward world of Napoleon Dynamite. The iconic cast is coming to Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City Saturday, March 9th. This unique evening includes a full screening of the movie, followed by a lively, freewheeling discussion with your favorite cast members, John Heder, Efren Ramirez, and John Grimes. Saturday, March 9th, enjoy a full night of nostalgia and laughter as we celebrate the 20th anniversary of Napoleon Dynamite at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. Get your tickets on Friday, October 20th at 10 a.m. at theoceanac.com.
Discover, this is Danny.
Hi, it's Jen Coolidge. I just want to thank you for making me feel so special. I earned cash back on debit for my dinner party groceries.
That's great. But with Discover Cashback Debit, we give everyone cash back on everyday purchases. Anything else I can help you with?
Are you hungry? Because everyone left after the asparagus sorbet.
Introducing Discover Cashback Debit, a checking account with cash back. It pays to Discover. Eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashback debit. Discover Bank, member FDIC.
I can't wait for what's next, even with higher stroke risk due to atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Eliquis, apixaban tablets, reduces stroke risk. It's the #1 cardiologist prescribed blood thinner.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without talking to your doctor, as this may increase your risk of stroke. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or have antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or unusual bruising, or if you have tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. It may increase your bleeding risk if you take medicines such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
This is the lunch rush at your local deli. Orders are flying in. Online, on the phone, and in person.
Order for Nick.
So is it possible that fast internet could help your business outrun the rush? It is with Comcast Business. Up-leveling your speed with gig speed Wi-Fi, powering all your devices, in fast downloads and uploads, powered by the next generation 10G network. With Comcast Business, next-level speed isn't just possible, it's happening. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Get started with fast speeds and advanced security for $39 a month for 12 months with no annual contract. Plus, ask how to get up to a $600 prepaid card on a qualifying gig bundle. Call or go online to learn more. Ends 11/12/2023. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and automatic payments. New 50 megabits per second internet and security edge customers only. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra. After promo, regular rates apply. Gig Wi-Fi requires gig internet and compatible router.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of holiday joy at the Home Depot, where you can find everything you need to get ready for the holiday season, like all new festive outdoor decor. Spread more joy this season with bigger, bolder, and brighter inflatables from the Home Depot, like our exclusive new 8-foot animated Santa and reindeer inflatable for just $149. Available in-store and online. Get holiday ready right now at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
To some, this might sound like a typical family dog. But at Dog Chow, we know that for a veteran suffering from PTSD, this could be the sound of life-saving therapy.
Thanks, Betty.
That's why we've made it our mission to connect every military hero in need with a canine hero of their own. To learn about the simple ways you can help Dog Chow in our mission, visit dogchow.com/veterans.
Is your home ready for the season? Are you worried about rooms that won't keep you warm in the winter? Call Jenkins Plumbing and Heating today about a new system from American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning or a Mitsubishi ductless system. Take advantage of financing of up to $15,000 from South Jersey Gas or Atlantic City Electric. Save more with rebates from these local utility companies. A new system can save on your utility bills. Call Jenkins at 609-641-6262 or online at jenkinsandsons.com.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig.
Game on 973 ESPN. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on a Tuesday. Flyers are in action. Curry lead 1-0. Home opener, 1-0 Flyers. What about them apples? How about they affect the Flyers move their game up to accommodate game done before the Phillies start at 8:07? I don't have an exact number. I don't know if I actually do this before the end of the hour. I would love to know how many people are at the Flyers game right now who are also going to try to run across the street to the Phillies game play out. That would be a cool experience. Go to one game and go to a Phillies playoff game and play afterwards. I'm sure some people are planning to do that. That's the Flyers win this game. And then the Phillies win tonight. Can you imagine in Millennium, Philadelphia? The only thing that would beat that is two of your teams playing in the same day in a playoff game. With them being the home opener, I mean, what would that be? Actually winning the championship? Flyers. They're always up. They're not going to be a great team. They're 2-5, right? 609-403-0973. We the Flyers Phillies shooter for EHC chimes in. And says, home to do for a breakout game. He failed to follow up. Nice time. Scott or get Homer in. Look out. My concern is the flash in his head. Let's go Flyers. A couple things there. One, I don't know if it's flash. I don't think that the Phillies are a team that. I think that the Phillies are a team that is a one-hit wonder. I feel like what they have done this season is pretty sustainable. So when you look at what they did last night, I don't think that Schwarber in that home run is a flash. Now, I do think that Foam, you're right. He is due to break out. I don't know if that's tonight or tomorrow, tonight or Thursday or whenever, but I do believe you're right. He's going to eventually break out and some big hits. I think the problem with Foam is that he spent so long this year being one of the key players of the team and their success that now that you're in the postseason, you're getting contributions from other people. He's almost like the forgotten guy right now. So that's kind of how I look at it. I look at it in the fact that you're having a guy who's so productive that he was going to get going to eventually fall, not fall down, but not hit. Baseball, I've always said, and this is where I come from. Baseball is the most difficult sport of all the sports. To me, there is nothing more difficult than hitting a baseball in any sport. There is nothing catching a football, catching a baseball, shooting a basketball, shooting a hockey puck, playing goalie in the NHL. All of these things are easier than hitting a baseball. So when Alec Boehm was in the top 10 most of the year in RBI in the National League, and when he spent almost the entire year top 10 with runners in scoring position batting average this year, at some point he's going to have to hit a slump. And if it happens to be in the postseason, I'm not going to be mad at him. I just know that eventually he'll break out because I know that at some point the back of his baseball card is going to jump back up. 609-403-0973. A couple of follow-ups here. Someone asked, what about your boy, Craig Kimbrell? First of all, I didn't know he was my boy, but apparently, according to a lot of people, I'm a Kimbrell guy. It's like how Mike Gill became a Howie Roseman guy. I'm a Craig Kimbrell guy, apparently. But look, Craig Kimbrell is a guy who I think that he's just gotten a bad reputation. I think he's gotten a reputation as a guy who is unreliable, when statistically he is pretty reliable. So I don't look at Kimbrel as a guy who I can't trust. Do I think he's Brad Lidge? Absolutely not. Do I think he's one of the, like they said on the broadcast last night, that he's one of the best closers of all time? And I'm like, under whose measurement? But with that being said, I don't necessarily think that Kimbrel is an elite player, but I don't think he's as bad as some people have painted him out to be. Look, for the Phillies in this postseason, he has allowed no earned runs. In fact, the last time he allowed an earned run was when he came in the 7th inning of the 2021 postseason for the White Sox against the Astros. And he allowed 2 earned runs in that game. He has currently, between his last 2 outings for the White Sox in 2021 postseason and the 4 games for the Phillies, he has allowed no earned runs. Now, has he done it in a way that has not made you nervous? Of course not. You go all the way back to the 2020 postseason. He had 2 strikeouts and 2 walks in an outing for the Cubs against the Marlins. I think that we just have to accept that Craig Kimbrel going on the mound is an experience. So it's not that I'm a Craig Kimbrel fan. You know, I mean, personally, I think that the hairdo that he has is weird. You know, I mean, that half ponytail thing he's got going on is, I don't get it. You know, I feel like, to me, the guy who has his hair like Kimbrel is also the guy who gets the tattoo that makes no sense to me. You know, like if you get a tattoo that's like, you know, has some sort of like personal meaning to you, like a family member, or something to do with like your cultural history, or, you know, something that has like deep meaning to you. Like, I get those things, you know, maybe if you have if you're like a Christian or you're Jewish and you get something that's related to your beliefs. I mean, I get that stuff, but the people who get like the rando tattoo because it looks cool, quote unquote, to me, they're the same guy as Craig Kimbrel. Like, they just live their lives at a different frequency than I do. You know, I'm a very deliberate person. Like, everything I do has a reason and a purpose. And Craig Kimbrel is the guy who goes out there and he's just like, I'm doing my thing, man. I'm just like, good for you. So Jeff in Ocean City chimes in on the text board back in and says, Zamula, first NHL goal. Great moment for the young defenseman. Hey, man, maybe there's just good vibes all around the city right now, right? You know, maybe right now we're just all good vibes in the city of Philadelphia. Maybe the Eagles can catch that on Sunday when they play the Dolphins on Sunday Night Football. Dan and EHT chimes in on the text board at 609-403-0973. Says, should we be concerned the Eagles' last couple head coaches have had short life and short success? Chip Kelly had success, but then had issues and faded. Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl and then that faded. Is this a trend? Dan EHC, it's a great question, and I don't know if there's a right answer to that question. My perspective would be that I think that the reason why Chip and Doug left Philadelphia the way they did were for such completely different reasons that I tend to believe that it's not a trend. Chip Kelly didn't last in Philadelphia because he basically won that first year with a bunch of guys who were injured the year before with Andy Reid. You could argue that Chip Kelly won with Andy Reid's players and Andy Reid's roster for the most part. And then when Chip Kelly started tinkering and developing the roster himself and he wanted more control over personnel, I think that was the moment that it started going sideways for him. I don't personally think that the reasons why Chip Kelly and Doug Peterson left were similar at all. I think they were both very different circumstances. Doug didn't last because there was an obvious clash between Doug Peterson and the Eagles organizational hierarchy. there was a strong disconnect between what Doug Peterson wanted to do and what the owner, Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman, wanted to do. Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl with a certain group of coaches. And as soon as those coaches left him, he was unable to have his team execute at the same level. And then they were so insanely injured in 2020. The Eagles were one of the most injured teams in the NFL during 2020. So I think it was a combination of factors that led Doug Peterson out of town. Whereas Chip Kelly's hubris and his lack of being able to be a quality NFL head coach consistently was in part what led to his downfall. What led to Doug Peterson leaving was a combination of factors. Doug left because, one, like I said, when he started losing coaches, Frank Reich left, John DeFilippo left, and so on, those coaches were not replaced by the right people. Doug Peterson tried to replace a lot of guys with people that he wanted in place, the Press Taylors of the world, for example. And Doug, him wanting to have the final say in who his coaches are is part of the clash that was had with the ownership in the front office. I think there were two other things that led to Doug Peterson leaving. One, Doug Peterson, unlike Nick Sirianni, never handed over the play calling. I remember Doug Peterson clearly telling the media at times here in Philadelphia that, one of the reasons why he loves being the head coach is that he gets the final say in the play calling, and he likes to have the control of play calling on game day. And so for him, that was a real make or break deal for him. When he had Frank Reich, though, Frank Reich was at least a voice in his ear to give him another opinion. And the Eagles organization looked at Doug and said, look, you're surrounded by too many people who like you and agree with you and tell you what you want to hear. And whether that's actually true or not, we may never know until Doug Peterson does a tell-all book, or we have a 30 for 30 documentary on the Eagles from 2016 to 2026. So until we have that documentary, we will never know. It's like the whole Carson Wentz thing. We will never know for certain how much of the Carson Wentz slander was real and how much of it was subjective. How much of the reporting on Carson Wentz and about his disconnect in the locker room and his, inability to, really connect with some of his teammates, and how much of that was real, how much was subjective. Now, I tend to think that some of it has to be real because Carson Wentz played for 3 different teams in 3 years, and now he's not even playing the league anymore, to the point where a team like the Jets could have easily used him, but instead they signed Trevor Siemian, for goodness sake. So maybe there is some truth to the perception of Doug Peterson and his own stubbornness and his inflexibility when it comes to certain things. Now, you can argue the organization may have been a little unflexible too by their desire to not, have a little, compromise with Doug, because at the end of the day, Doug Peterson is the only head coach to ever win a championship in Philadelphia. So I think that Doug had tremendous success for a 3-year period, because the 2 years after the Super Bowl, if Alshon Jeffrey catches the ball, if there aren't a couple injuries on the Saints game, do they go back to the championship game? And then what happens? Do they beat the Rams? We'll never know. If Carson Wentz doesn't get concussed by that, what it should have been an illegal blow by Jadeveon Clowney, do the Eagles win that playoff game? If Josh McCown doesn't tear his hamstring, do they win that game against the Seahawks? The Eagles defense played an incredible game in that 2019, for the 2019 season postseason game against the Seahawks. So you could argue that the Eagles were right there. They were right there on the edge 2 different times. So I don't think Doug faded. I think Doug dropped off the face of the earth. I think Chip Kelly faded. Chip Kelly, he got to the postseason. He didn't make it the next year, but he still won 10 games. And then there was this slippery slope after that. It was Howie Roseman being sent to the broom closet, as Jason Kelsey would say. It was the decision to, Chip Kelly wanting guys like Marcus Smith and Nelson Aguilar in the draft. It was the whole, oh my goodness, what was his name? Riley Cooper fiasco, right? There was the whole, who sent Deshaun Jackson, who ran him out of town situation. There were so many things that went on with Chip Kelly. It was the fact that players like Lane Johnson were disgusted with him. And then Doug Peterson, I think that was a completely different situation than Chip. And then Sirianni, I don't think Sirianni is lacking success. The Eagles are 5-1. Let's not overreact to one game. Can we be critical of them for that one game? Yes. Can we criticize the Eagles for a specific moment in time and their play calling? Yes. Does Sirianni losing Shane Steichen maybe hurt this team in the long run? Absolutely. But I'm not overly concerned about the Eagles' coaching history, Danny H. I think it's a very valid question to ask. I don't think it's a bad idea or a bad question, but I think that it's a question that needs a lot more depth and consideration than what it says on the surface. Danny HC's other point at 609-403-0973, his bullpens are the same for these two teams. Throwing strikes and having control problems is why they become bullpen pitchers instead of starters. I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I'll bring it up to Mike Gill tomorrow in the Sports Bash, but I tend to think the bullpen pitchers, that's more of an endurance thing than a control issue. I tend to view bullpen pitchers as guys who can only put out their best stuff for an inning or two, whereas starters, there are guys who could put out their best stuff second and third time through the lineup. Typically a bullpen pitcher is a guy who, once he gets past a certain number of pitches or a certain number of batters he's faced, he fizzles, he runs out of steam. That's more of a sustainability than a control thing. I think there are plenty of starting pitchers who don't have the greatest control, but they're able to last deeper into the game and hold their good stuff available for them. I look at a guy like John Smoltz. John Smoltz was a starting pitcher and a bullpen pitcher and had tremendous success in both roles. I don't think that Smoltz was in the bullpen or as a starter because he had more or less control at any point. It was more so the fact that the Braves, they needed a closer, and Smoltz was coming off of an injury, and for a short time, he became their closer because they desperately needed a guy to shut down games back there. See, Dennis Eckersley was a guy who was a starter and a bullpen pitcher. Now, was he a better bullpen pitcher than a starter? Absolutely. But he was still able to do both. I don't think he was, a guy who didn't have control as a starter. That's why he had to go to the bullpen. So I think that's a misnomer, Dan EHT. At least how I look at it. 609-403-0973 is the text board. George at Summers Point chimes in on the text. Says, hey, Josh, I have lost confidence in Sir Anthony Dominguez of the bullpen. I think that Rob Thompson should as well. My question for you is, if you had to have a shutdown inning and bring in a pitcher in our current bullpen and someone to keep runners from scoring who are already on base, who would it be? That's from George in Summers Point. Well, George, let me answer the second question first. It's Jose Alvarado. I think that, as they mentioned it last night on the television broadcast. I believe it was Ron Darling who said that, Jose Alvarado is the most trusted guy coming out of that bullpen. He's the guy that Rob Thompson, and he's right. And many people talk about this. Bob Wankel has talked about this on the Sports Bash. I've heard Dan Plesac talk about this on MLB Tonight. I've heard Doug Glanville talk about this on the ESPN radio broadcast. Alvarado is the guy to put out the fires. He is the ultimate fireman for this team. So I think that's the easy answer to that. The issue with Dominguez is, do we look at last night's start as Dominguez cannot be trusted, or do we look at last night as Dominguez made a bad throw and the inning got away from the Phillies a bit? I think those are two different things. I don't know if I look at Dominguez as a guy who I don't trust. I think I look at that game last night as he made a bad throw and the inning didn't go as planned. If Dominguez gets at least the runner at second, doesn't make a bad throw, how different is that inning last night? Look, Dominguez this postseason has allowed one run this postseason. One. Just one. So before last night, in 2 2/3 innings, he had 4 strikeouts. Now, he also allowed 4 hits, but no walks, 4 strikeouts. I don't know if it's a guy that I lose confidence in. Again, we got to have context with some of this stuff. I don't think Dominguez is horrible. Only 1 run was scored after that error last night. I don't think that's a symbol that Dominguez is a bad pitcher or that we should lose confidence in him. I think that you got to go back to him at some point. You're going to need him at some point. And for me, I trust him over Hoffman. I don't look at Dominguez as a guy that I don't trust or I have confidence in. I look at Hoffman as a guy I have way more questions about. Way more questions. Hoffman may be one of the most frustrating guys on this team. This is a guy who went through the year, had a very good season, but now in the postseason, you're wondering, can you trust this guy? Look, I know what Dominguez did in last year's postseason, what Alvarado did in last year's postseason. I know what Kimbrel has done so far in this year's postseason. Hoffman doesn't have the resume for me to trust him. So, look, if I'm in the 6th, 7th, or 8th inning, I'm going to trust Dominguez before I trust Hoffman. I'm going to trust Dominguez before I trust Michael Lorenzen. Because I know that Dominguez has gotten the job done and the other guys haven't. All right, let's get to more of your text a little bit later. 609-403-0973 is the text board. AJ in Cape May Courthouse. I see your message. We'll get to you and more coming up here on Game Night. Don't forget Phillies baseball tonight. Coverage begins at 7:30 p.m. First pitch at 8:07 right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. And don't forget, you can also listen to the game on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle.
Catch Phillies playoff baseball on 97.3 ESPN.
Drilled out towards left center field. That's back on its way, and it's gone. Nick Castellanos, his second of the game.
Can the Phillies make a return trip to the World Series this season? Listen to find out.
It's the National League Championship Series. Phillies Diamondbacks.
Game 2 tonight. Coverage begins at 7:30. The road to the World Series starts here on 97.3 ESPN. Your home for Phillies playoff baseball.
At Bet365, we don't do ordinary. We believe that every sport should be epic. Every touchdown, every game, every point, every play. From the moments that are legendary to the ones that fly under the radar. Whether it's a 99-yard pass to score a touchdown or a fumble in the first minute of the game. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. 21 plus only. Must be present in New Jersey. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Terms and conditions apply.
Discover, this is Danny.
Hi, it's Jen Coolidge. I just want to thank you for making me feel so special. I earned cash back on debit for my dinner party groceries.
That's great. But with Discover Cashback Debit, we give everyone cash back on everyday purchases. Anything else I can help you with?
Are you hungry? Because everyone left after the asparagus sorbet.
Introducing Discover Cashback Debit, a checking account with cash back. It pays to Discover. Eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashback debit. Discover Bank, member FDIC.
With GMF financing to qualify buyers excludes Corvette, excludes prior sales.
Everybody knows there's no beating Bennett. And right now, we're kicking off our end-of-year sell-down early with our best deals of the year. While most dealers are selling new vehicles at or above MSRP, Bennett's selling new Chevys at GM supplier employee prices. Yes, you pay what our supplier employees pay, not 1 penny more. Save even more with available 0% financing. And during our year-end sale, get our best offers ever on pre-owned vehicles vehicles. We'll pay a minimum $10,000 for any trade. Any trade. We don't care if it's got 1,000,000 miles or 1,000,000 dents. You still get a minimum $10,000 towards any pre-owned in stock. Imagine how much more you'll get if it's in good shape. And our non-commissioned sales staff is a delight to work with because they're paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. No need to negotiate, no hassles, no haggling. Find new roads at Bennett Chevrolet in Egg Harbor Township and BennettChevy.com.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-583-2668. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. There is zero risk to you. If we can't reduce your tax debt, then you pay nothing. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have a 5-star rating on Google and Yelp and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-583-2668. 800-583-2668. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
97.3 ESPN has teamed up with Seize the Deal for incredible weekly offers from some fantastic local restaurants. Here's this week's big deal.
Get a $50 gift card good for use at Jester's Dive Bar for just $25.
Get this great deal starting Friday at 9 a.m. at SeizeTheDeal.com. Hurry, chances are this deal will sell quickly. For more info on this great deal, go to SeizeTheDeal.com.
SeizeTheDeal.com.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of holiday joy at the Home Depot, where you can find everything you need to get ready for the holiday season, like all new festive outdoor decor. Spread more joy this season with bigger, bolder, and brighter inflatables from the Home Depot, like our exclusive new 8-foot animated Santa and reindeer inflatable for just $149, available in-store and online. Get holiday ready right now at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
Don't get tricked this October into overpaying for a used vehicle. Get to Matt Black Kia and buy a brand new 2023 Kia Forte LXS, just $19,999. You heard right. A brand new Kia with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty for under $20,000. Why would you buy a used vehicle? Stuck in a loan or lease? Matt Black Kia wants to get you released. And it's the only place you can drive with peace of mind with our 4-day love it or leave it return policy. Plus, you can drive with 0 down and 0 payments for 90 days on every new Kia in stock. We want to finance your future, not your past. So come get your new Kia Forte for under $20,000. But when they're gone, they're gone.
It's gotta be a Matt Black Kia.
With approved credit, not all will qualify. Credit may affect down payment. Offers can't be combined. Go to mattblackkianj.com for complete details or 888-545-6670. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer, except for licensing, registration, and taxes through KMF. Rebates and incentives to dealer expires 11/5/23. Matt Black Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Toms River.
My ride smells just right, just right, just right, just right.
Y'all gotta try that Febreze car.
Just right, just right, just right. Yeah. La 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 la. With up to 40 days of consistency. All over Febreze car clips right on your vent. You know my car's my happy place. Keep that smile on my face. When it smells just right, just right, just right. Yeah. Breathe happy Febreze. La 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 la.
Go to get your game on at the Gallery Bar Booking Games in Ocean Casino Resort this football season. Cheers your favorite drinks while cheering on your favorite team. Get in on the parlay while in the middle of a party. Go for the sports scene and go for the endless screens. Go to the Gallery. Go to Ocean. Go for the win. For more information, visit theoceanac.com. Must be 21 or older to wager or consume alcohol. Gambling problem?
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Well, Flyers lead 2-0 now after Sean Couturier had a phenomenal puck handling on a penalty shot. I mean, he literally peeked the goalie out. He had no idea what the Flyers you imagine the Flyers win and the Phillies win? We're going to try to go from the Flyers game to the Phillies game tonight. It's going to be absolutely nuts. And I'm all here for the nuts. By the way, the Flyers game is on our sister station, Rock 104.1 right now. So, if you want to listen to the Flyers game before the Phillies game starts at 8:07, you can flip over to Rock 104.1 on the Rock 104.1 app and then flip back to 97.3 ESPN at 8:07 for Phillies first pitch. And you can listen to on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app as well. We got you covered on both teams, on both stations today. Back to the text board, 609-403-0973. All right, so I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I have read through AJ from Cape May Courthouse's texts. All right. AJ from Cape May Courthouse has sent me the same text 4 times today as a whole. He sent the same text twice during the Sports Bash, and he's now sent it twice during game night. And I got to tell you, AJ from Cape May Courthouse, you can tell me as much as you want that we should be talking about the Jets missing their first field goal. But the reality is that I haven't seen any evidence that they missed it. I'm sorry. That's all I got for you, man. I mean, look, AJ, I think you need to, if you feel so passionately about it, maybe you should start your own YouTube channel where you break down Zapruder film and show how that kick was missed. Because I just went searching through the internet and I can't find some. Now, look, maybe I need to rewatch the game for the 3rd time and see where that kick was, but I'm not seeing it, man. Before we get out of here, Derek, the Diamondbacks fan, chimed in and says, I want to tell you, Josh, what the strategy is. We're going to use Sewald and Ginkel if we get the lead tied or in striking distance. If not, we will go like we did last night. Good luck to your Phillies. Let's get it on. Diamondbacks fan Derek. Look, I give Derek a lot of credit. This dude has been consistently texting the show. He has been consistently on his Diamondbacks from the get-go. So, yeah, man, best of luck, Derek. I still think the Phillies win tonight. I think the way this series is going to go is I think they go up 2-0, and then they lose game 3 or 4 in Arizona. Probably more likely game 3. I think that's what's going to happen. I think they're going to win games 1 and 2, lose game 3, and then wins game 4, and then 5 and 6 is a coin toss, depending on a few different variables. Just personal. All right. You heard the keyword earlier in the hour, 609-403-0973. That is the text board. Send the keyword in, and you can qualify to win tickets to the Eagles, 49ers.
You have the choice, whether it's going out to dinner or ordering takeout at a local restaurant. Those choices help to put money back into your community. And Town Square Media South Jersey puts a spotlight on local restaurants.
Beach Buns Bakery in Northfield. Fresh and delicious baked goods. Online at beachbunsbakerynj.com. Trio North Wildwood. Chef-driven, quality-focused, bridging the gap between bar food and fine dining. TrioNW.com. The 20s Italian restaurant at the historic Claridge, Atlantic City. Visit Claridge.com. Jester's Dive Bar, celebrating their 1-year anniversary. You have to check out Jester's in Rio Grande, where you will enjoy handcrafted selection of shareable plates, including burgers, wings, sandwiches, and daily specials. Watch your favorite NFL team or root your team to the World Series on plenty of HD TVs. Check their website at jestersdivebar.com for their full schedule of live music.
Thank you for supporting these great local restaurants from Town Square Media South Jersey.